So I'm sitting down at a cafe to record a much requested video on visas. And inevitably, there is construction happening right next door that just started. And at first I thought, oh no. And then my second thought was, perfect. If you are coming to Vietnam and you are coming here for a vacation or you're considering staying here long term, construction is a part of life. So, if you are adverse to construction noises and inconveniences, then it could be a challenging place. Let's see if I can get through this video without too much construction interruption. And then also, there's motorbikes that go by, there's deliveries, there's megaphones. It's literally a part of life here. So, visas, let's get into it. The first thing to know is that the visa situation is different depending on what country you're from, and that's what passport you have. So the passport for some countries will allow citizens to come to Vietnam and get a visa on arrival. The US is not one of those countries. So for me as a US citizen, I need to get a visa prior to coming to Vietnam. So then your options are 30-day or 90-day, single entry or multiple entry. And they're just like the name sounds. On a single entry, you can enter the country once, and regardless of whether you stay the full 30 days or anything short of that, you can only, once you leave, you can't come back in. On a multiple entry, you can come and go as many times as you like within that time frame. One important thing to know is that the visa time frame doesn't start when you go through immigration. It starts based on the date that you submitted with your visa form. So the option you choose really depends on your preference and your priorities. If you would like to do it the least expensive way, you would do it directly on the government site. For me, I used to do it on the government site. Now I prefer to go through an agent and pay the service charge, and then they handle the process. They handle the processing. I know they filled it out correctly. I know when to expect it, and it's just for peace of mind. If you go with an agent, they will then charge a nominal service charge in order to process your visa for you. So it just depends on what's important to you. If you want the ease of going with an agent, I personally like the peace of mind, or if you'd like to save the money and do it yourself. An important thing to know as a US citizen is you need to have a copy of that visa, and it can be on your phone or a paper copy, but you need to show it to the ticket agent when you are checking in for your flight, and they're going to scrutinize it and approve it, make sure that everything is okay before they give you your boarding pass. And the deal there is that they want to make sure that if their airline is taking you over to Vietnam, you're not going to hit an issue at immigration, and now they're responsible for bringing you back. So it's very important that your social security number is right, that the dates are accurate, that your name is exactly how it appears in your passport. And there are some easy to miss components of filling out the form that can cause some issues with your visa, and I will talk about those shortly. So once you arrive in Vietnam, you will go through immigration, and the immigration officer will look at your visa, and they will then they'll stamp your passport and write in your end date in your passport. The critical thing to know with that end date is it is the end date that is on if you have a visa form, it's the end date that's on your visa form. It's not 30 days or 90 days from the actual date that you're arriving if it's different. So what I mean by that is if you apply for a visa, say March 1st for 90 days, and it's approved, and it will have a begin date and an end date. If you decide to postpone your trip for a month and you use that visa, well, now you only have 60 days left on it. So that's an important thing to remember. Once you get in to the country, you want to keep a very close eye on that visa end date. You do not want to overstay your visa. For me personally, when my visa end date is approaching, I will schedule my trip out usually about 3 or 4 days ahead of time. I'm not taking any chances. The last thing I want to do is be at the airport trying to explain and pay a fine for an overstay, which might be then attached to me, or be at an immigration office trying to sort this out. It's very important to be out of the country by your visa end date. So, what I usually do is I will book a flight out, say 3 or 4 days ahead of time. And the reason that I do that is there's typhoons here. I've been here where there's a typhoon and the airport is closed. Even if there's an excuse, I don't want to try to sort this out. Or say I'm sick, or something happens where there's some hiccup and I need to postpone my flight, either by something that I need or something that's happening. I want to make sure I'm out. For people who like to stay longer term in Vietnam, there's not currently an option to extend your visa from inside the country. So, what we need to do is physically leave the country, get stamped out, have it show in immigration, and outside the country, you apply for a new visa to come back in. And it sounds more complicated than it is. So, what I typically do is I will fly out to a neighboring country like Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, or Bangkok, Thailand. It's less than a 2 hour flight direct. And once I arrive there, I will contact my visa agent and she'll ask me how quickly I want a new visa and what type. So, I'll do another multiple entry 90-day visa. And then I have the option to have it expedited. The regular government processing time, from my experience, runs about 3 business days. They say to give it 5. That does not include weekends and does not include holidays. However, the visa agents have the option to expedite a visa. So each of those visa processing times, the agent will charge a different processing time depending on what your choice is. So you can get a 4 hour processing, a 1 day, 2, 3, 4, or when it gets returned from the government. What's really comforting to me is I can give the information to the visa agent, explain what it is that I'm looking for or I need for that trip, and I know that it's taken care of, and then I can plan my return back. If somebody really wants to, they can fly out in the morning, get stamped out, have a 4 hour visa processed, fly back that same night. For me personally, I like to make a mini trip out of it. So I will fly somewhere that I'd like to go. I'll spend a few days. I'll have the agent process my visa. It comes back into my inbox, and then I have it when I go to check in for my flight back. I usually make a mini vacation out of it. So I have a tendency to choose like the 3 day or the 4 day. There was a situation once where I flew out on a Saturday and I just wasn't thinking. And I thought, oh, I think I'll fly back Monday or Tuesday. And I forgot that it was a holiday. So I couldn't even reach the visa agent until Wednesday. Like, can I get a 1 day? Like, can I fly back tonight? So it's just something to keep an eye on. Another option is to go to the closest land border and exit through the land border. So these trips are called a visa run or a border run, and they're just a common term that you hear in these circles. People say, oh, I'm leaving on Tuesday for a visa run. I'm leaving on Friday for a border run. And they're interchangeable. So on a land border run, the typical way to do it is to work with a visa agency, and they have scheduled trips to the closest border. So where I am now, there's a border to Laos, and it's about a 6 hour ride in a bus. And so you'll meet at 6 a.m. around that time, early in the morning, board up the bus, and you'll drive out through the countryside, and then you'll go to that land border point where you'll get out, and then you will go to the exit immigration at the Vietnamese building. They'll stamp you out, and then there's a building off in the distance, and that is the Laos immigration building. And you'll walk across the asphalt walkway, and you'll get stamped in to Laos. And then you turn around the corner of the building, you get stamped out of Laos, and then you walk back across the parking lot. And then the visa agent helps the group that she's managing to process all the visas of the group going back in. And then everybody has lunch. You get back on the bus and you drive the 6 hours back home. That tends to be the cheaper option than catching a flight out of the country. So, and it takes the 1 day. So it really depends on you, your time, the money, the availability of the buses, the flight schedule. It really depends on you which option you choose, but those are the options. So it might sound like a lot, But for me, I go back to the States once a year. So from the States, I'll apply for my new visa to come back. And then 3 times throughout the year, I need to take a little mini vacation somewhere. And it could be Bangkok, it could be Chiang Mai, Thailand, it could be an island in the south of Thailand, it could be Malaysia, Hong Kong, less than a 2 hour flight. Japan has direct flights, Taiwan has direct flights. So I like to use it as a forced vacation, a little mini opportunity to explore or to go back to a place that I love. Like I love Chiang Mai, Thailand. And so that's where my most recent border run was. The two before that, I flew to Bangkok. It's an easy, quick flight, spent some time there, have some yummy food, visit some malls and gather a few things that I have trouble finding here and fly back. I have a lot of friends that they'll just take the day, go do the Lao Bao border, come back. They're like, long day, but now it's behind me. And now I have another 90 days. So, a couple things if you are going to go onto the government website before you come to Vietnam and fill out the form yourself, a couple things to be really careful about. The first one is that when you're filling out your name, there is your surname, your last name, and then there's a space for given name, first name. It's very easy to put your first name. However, your visa approval letter, the visa that you're applying for, needs to have your name exactly how it appears on your passport. So if your passport has your middle name, as does mine, you need to remember to put your first name and your middle name. What happens if you only have your first name is that you go to give your visa to the ticket agent and they look at your passport and they look at the visa and they say, the names don't match. This isn't valid. And that happened to me once. So, how they want to handle that, there's a few different ways. In my situation, I was actually in Thailand coming to Vietnam, and they had me step off to the side, and they called Vietnam immigration, and I waited, and then they came back and said, "You might have to pay a fee, but we can still allow you to go." I've also seen people needing to pay a fee at an airport. Um, so just something to be really careful of. The other thing to be careful of is the date structure. So the way that dates are structured in the US is month, day, DD, and then year, the 4 digits of the year. In Asia, the days and months are flip-flopped. So what I might see as March 10th, I'll see like 0310, March 10th. For the Vietnamese, the 03 is the day and the 10 is the month. So they see that as the 3rd of October. When you're filling out your visa form, make sure that you're putting in the right dates and the dates the way that they know what the dates are. The other mistake that I've heard, people got stopped at the airport, friends of mine, is when they were filling out the form, they were filling it out for the next year when they were going on vacation. So, for example, they put in 2025 as the year when they were going in 2026. So, again, the visa is not valid. You don't want to show up at the airport and not be able to get your boarding pass. So, just to summarize, you can do it yourself through the government site. You can pay a nominal fee to an agent. Once you arrive, if you want to stay longer than your visa, you need to leave the country physically. You need to be all the way out, apply for a new one to come back, do it yourself, do it with an agent. You can do it through the land, you can do it through the air. It all depends on your planning, your budgets, where you want to go. Yeah, just what works best for you. So it may sound complicated, but it's really not. And once you have done it once or twice, it really becomes like second nature. I find that it's manageable. I don't mind taking a trip 3 times in a year, but that's just me. And so if you find that that is something that just feels too disruptive, you feel ungrounded, will the visa rules change in the future? I don't know. They could change to be longer. They might not be in my favor. The one thing, too, that I'm just aware of is that this is the situation now, and it could always change. So I can never count on being here long term. And if that's an important aspect of somebody feeling comfortable and grounded, then again, there are other countries that offer longer term visas. I feel like for myself, if anything changed, then I would pivot at that point, depending on what the new rules are. That is how it works for me. I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please leave me a comment. And if you have any other questions about how the visas work, the physical part of it, the mindset part of it, feel free to let me know that too, and I'll do my best to answer the questions. Thanks for watching.